Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. We're just going to do a quick sound check. If you can, there's a little icon on the top of the toolbar. You can maybe click on that or tap on that for your hand to go up. And maybe Alan as well. Yeah, hands are going up. That's looking good. Great.
Yeah, I've just put my hand up.
Okay, well done. Yes. Okay, great. So sound is coming out nice and clear. Good stuff. Right. Okay. So welcome. Had a slight panic there that the usual technical problems. So it's possible that things might go wrong today because we've got lots of tech going on. So please bear with us, but we'll do our best to make sure everything's working nice for you. So it's myself and Alan from CALL. And a big thank you to Dyslexia Scotland. Are they funding this? Are they?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks to Dyslexia
You're not
Scotland.
supposed to tell people that.
All right. Well, no. Okay. Okay. You didn't hear that. Okay. You're doing a great job. So this webinar today is on supporting people with dyslexia using iPads and Android devices as well. So I'll
we were originally going to try and cover Chromebooks, but there are various technical issues that just made it a bit unrealistic. It's bad enough changing between iPads and Androids, but having to change between iPads and Androids and Chromebooks would have been just all too much for us.
All too much, yeah. So just to say that we're recording this, and this will be an archive, and you can probably see each other's names on the participant list just now, but that will be anonymized, okay, when we set the recording out, so no one will be able to see who you are. So, okay, without further ado, I think we'll bash on. So we've got an hour and a half, and I think the great thing about webinars is that, you know, you can just sit back, have a cup of tea and a biscuit, and really we don't have any tea and biscuits. So really just enjoy this at your leisure, dip into it, things that interest you, turn the telly on if there's something that isn't interesting or whatever. But I think that's the good things about webinars. So, okay, so just so you have a good idea of what's going on today. This is the schedule. So I'm going to be looking at some of the built-in features of the iPad to support dyslexia. And then Alan will look at some iPad apps, a range of apps to support reading and writing. And then in the second section, it'll be mostly Alan who's going to be looking at the Android's built-in tools and some apps as well.
Right. Good.
So how does that sound, folks? Is that okay?
No, it's not.
Okay, so just before we start, it would just be good to get a kind of an idea of sort of, you know, what devices people are using. So if I could, I think that should just be active for you. That, again, this is anonymous, so it's just really a kind of a bit of fun to see what sort of things you're doing, what kind of iPads that you're using or what Androids you're using. Okay, so we've got... Sorry?
Should we fill it in?
Yeah, I guess we should, shouldn't we? That'll make it fair.
Oh, this one's got both.
So Sharon's saying that she works across a few of them. So yeah, well, that's. Might there be captions available? I'm sorry, we can't. Adobe Connect doesn't support captions, I'm afraid. That's one of the disadvantages of Adobe Connect. There are no captions
on the iTunes version, not the.
We need to.
What is it?
Yeah.
YouTube version.
If there's going to be a YouTube version, that might be a way of doing it. Yeah,
because we're planning to make that Dyslexia Scotland have a YouTube version of the recording, and it should be possible to add captions to that.
There you go. That might be a way of doing it.
Take a wee while to do, but
okay. Right. So. So I just want to maybe from experience, if you could maybe mention some of the benefits, if you have been using, that is a challenge, is access to Wi-Fi. Text-to-speech, okay. So we've got some people using their iPads every day, majority occasionally to support pupils and learners, and 15% or 2 very occasionally, and a couple never. So that's good. So hopefully we'll have something here that will really, I guess, will be helpful for everyone.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, access to Wi-Fi, isn't it? It's the problem. Software compatibility, I guess, is that maybe, do you mean in terms of like Mac software, or is it Android software, or between Windows and that type of thing? And interesting to see that when it says none, I don't use a device. Look at that. So we've all got devices. If we'd done that 10 years ago, it would have been quite different. Okay, thanks for contributing towards the little poll. So the next stage is we're going to let you see some of the resources that you can download. So I'm just going to move the slide on a bit now to the next section. And this is where you can actually download some of the files. So this one here is iPad apps for reading and writing, is something that Alan's put together, and Android apps. This is a download link just up the top here. So if I move this box, hopefully, yeah, so that's where you can get that file. And this is it here. And I think you should be able to just at your leisure be able to go around and have a look through it. Lots of good hyperlinks. And these are just links to sort of resources that we've put together. So you would just click on the one that you want, and down at the bottom, go to Browse To, and you can get that. So we'll give you a bit of time just to look around and download those files. But if you don't have time just now, don't worry about it, because when you come back to view the recording, those are still active, so you can still click on the files and download them. But I would say most of them are all on the CALL Scotland site. Is that right, Alan?
Yep, they'll all be in the posters. This handout, iPad and the Android apps to support people with dyslexia, that's not on the website, because I just finished writing it this afternoon.
Right, that's hot off the press then.
Hot off the photocopier. The electronic thingy. I've got the only printed copy of it.
Right.
I'll option it at the end of the webinar.
So what we're going to do next is I'm going to look at some of the built-in features on the iPad. So you'll probably notice that when we move to the next slide, the screen might disappear for a short while, but then it will come back with hopefully my iPad on the screen. I've just got it here in the background. Okay, so we're just going to be mirroring our iPads onto the desktop so you can actually see them and see the sort of apps and things that we're doing. There'll be an opportunity for questions towards the end, so if you have any questions, you can pop them into the text box, or maybe just leave them to the end. We could have a Q&A then, anything you'd like us to cover or go over. Okay, right, so I'm going to move on now to the next stage, and we're going to go on to look at so I'm going to share my screen, but in terms of, if you're thinking about taking notes or anything like that, I wouldn't worry about that too much, because everything that we're going to be doing is either in this little guide, this little book we've put together called What's New in iOS 11. I know that we've moved on to iOS 12 now, but everything here is still relevant for iOS 12.
There wasn't much new in iOS 12.
There wasn't, was there? Not in terms of accessibility, there wasn't. And again, that's on the download links that you can get that on the website to go through. So everything's there. And also just this one here, I did this a while ago, this poster, but again, it's still very, very relevant. You're saying it's hard to hear the second person speaking. Okay, I'll get Alan to speak up. Speak up, Alan. Okay.
I'll speak up.
That's it, great, thank you.
I'll just move my chair a bit closer to the microphone as well.
Right. So we've got this other poster here, and this is really going to be all the things that we're going to be covering. It doesn't really tell you how to do it. It tells you the various things that you can do. But I'll explain some of those things on how you can do them when we get started. Okay, right. So I'm just going to close these things off. I'm going to hide that, and then hide this, and then I'm going to maximize my sharing screen. There we go. And share my screen, and then hopefully, if all works well, you should be able to see my iPad. Yeah. Great, okay, great, so here we are. Now, you might find that when I'm demonstrating some of the text-to-speech apps, some of the sounds might come from different, we've got some coming out of the computer speaker, some coming out of the iPad. It's just the way that it works, it's not very consistent. So what I'm going to do to start, I'm just going to move my iPad, my desktop back a bit and have my iPad in front of me so I can navigate through these things. And down on the bottom, on the docking bar here, you can see I've got Netscape, it's not Netscape, Safari browser, okay?
That's an old one.
You can see if I just kind of move that, you can see that's what I'm going to be looking at next. So I don't want those wobbly ones. So just look at some reading tips that you might be able to do. So here we've got a Safari browser, and this sort of thing I'm going to show you just now is appearing on lots of browsers now, not just Safari, but it certainly was one of the few ones that, or the early ones that implemented these ideas. So we're on a Wikipedia page. It could be a BBC web page. It could be, you know, various websites, and you can see it's quite cluttered. So potentially for a dyslexic pupil, there's maybe a lot going on there. There's possibly too much. It's maybe just a bit too much. So what can we do to make those things easier? Well, if you can see just where the browser is, where it says EN Wikipedia, just to the left of that, there are some horizontal lines in the URL bar. Now, if I tap onto that, you can see what it does. It just strips all that information out, makes it much easier to see. So I'll just show you that again. Okay, so strip that out, strip that again, and you can see. So that's much clearer. Also, just to the right of that URL bar, where the horizontal lines are highlighted, if I tap on the two A's, the double A's, you can see we've got some option to maybe change the font. We could maybe change the background color of that, make it clearer, and the large A will make it easier. We can magnify that up as well. So not just for dyslexia type of learners, but potentially for visually impaired or pupils who experience sight loss as well, it might be quite useful. Okay, so this is when things might start going a bit pear-shaped. Okay, so what I'm going to demonstrate now is how we can maybe use some text-to-speech with some of these apps. Again, I'm just using the built-in functionality, and a pupil faced with that page still might find it quite difficult to read. So what can he or she do to help? Well, what I could do, if I could maybe find a word that I'm not very sure about, I can tap and hold that word, and what happens is I get the pop-up menu, which will probably speak it for me. So if you can see, if I tap speak.
Smuggling.
Okay, there's also an option there to spell it.
S-M-U-G-G-L-I-N-G.
Okay, so that might be quite useful. Or I could maybe expand those sort of lines that I've got there, and let's just take it up. And now I've got the option to speak the sentence or speak the paragraph. So let's just tap onto that.
The book was first published on the 26th of March 1956. The story centers on Bond's investigation of a diamond smuggling operation that originates in the mines of Sierra Leone and runs to Las Vegas.
I was just thinking, do you ever see that film, James Bond Goldfingers?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the guy with the hat. He used to kill everybody when he threw his hat like a frisbee. Anyway, sorry.
Goldfinger used to paint people.
That's right. It just reminded me. Sorry, folks. Quick diversion. So there.
We're showing our age.
So there you go. So that's
remember
some useful tips that we've got in just that are built in.
Deadly bowler hats.
Deadly bowler hats. Yeah. No mention of it in this article. So what we can do there is we can select each of those, select a word or select a sentence or select a paragraph. So that gives the learners a bit of flexibility on how they can have the text read back. But there is another option that we could also use, and this one's called Speak Screen. And it's difficult to visualize it, but I'll show you how to do it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to swipe two fingers from the top of the iPad, and I'm going to swipe them down onto the actual screen. So if I just do that just now, swipe them down.
From today's featured article, Diamonds of Forever is the fourth novel by the English author.
I'm just going to put my volume up.
To feature his fictional British Secret Service agent, James Bond, Fleming.
Okay, so what we now have is something called Speak Screen, which will speak all the content on the screen. And you can see there that there are options to make it go slower. Maybe cognitively, if the student's struggling to listen to that or understand it, they can go slower, or they can go faster. So you can change the rate of speed, and you could even position it as well in the different areas of the iPad. So it's not just good for sort of reading web pages, but if I just come out of there and let's go into, let me see, iBooks, for example, and I just choose a book. We can also do the same for iBooks. So let's just do the same thing. Let's two fingers down.
The one you really want. Away in London, Carmen replied innocently, I wouldn't dream of saying I'd...
Okay, so there's lots of other content. Let's try something else. And notice on the bar, it tells you which application you're in. It's telling me just now I'm in Books. So if I was to close that off, sorry, and go to Notes now, and do the same thing again.
River profile, say river changes shape.
It's telling me that I'm in Notes, and it's reading that text as well. So I'm just going to go back into Safari, and I'm going to do Speak Screen again.
From today's featured article, Diamonds Are Forever.
And pause that. Notice something else that's going on as well. As it's speaking, you're also getting the colour highlighting as well. So it's highlighting the colours of the words or sentences as it's speaking. So it's synchronising the text with the speech and the highlighting. So that can be quite useful for maybe where people who maybe struggle to sort of follow text, or just, you know, they've maybe lose their position on the page. So again, these are really good, useful features that are in. So you might be thinking, well, how do I do that? How do I get to those features? Well, I'm going to press the home button now and come out of there. So I'm pressing the home button. And down on the left-hand side of my screen of the dock, I've got Settings. So I'm going to click into Settings. And on the bottom, on the left-hand side, there's a General. And when you tap on General, in fact, if you have an iPad, you know, feel free just to sort of try, follow along as we're doing this. As we do General, I'm going to tap into Accessibility. Now, accessibility is your best friend because it has some fantastic, really, options that are useful in there. We've got VoiceOver, that's a screen reader for people who are visually impaired. We've got Zoom for magnification, loads of really useful things. But the first thing I'm going to look at is this one option in here called Speech. And by default, they are switched off. So if you're trying this on your phone or your iPad and it's not working, then you'd have to go in and switch these on. Okay, so I'm just going to turn them on. And you see underneath it says Speak button will appear when you select text, and Speak Screen, it gives you the instructions which says swipe down until with 2 fingers from the top of the right to hear the content of the screen. So if you have those 2 options enabled, that's going to give pupils a lot of control over how they can listen to text. Just underneath that, we also have one called Highlight Content. So if we tap onto that, this is where you can see where you can have that synchronized text-to-speech, so that the words and the sentences are being highlighted as they're being read. So the one that I have just now is I've got a background color, or you could have, for example, underline, or you could have words and sentences, or just words, depending on the needs of the pupil. And a really nice feature now that they have built in is that you can sort of change or have different contrasts of colors. So one for words, one for sentences, and vice versa. So you can choose those ones that are there. So let's just go back into my page, into Safari.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah,
just
of course.
A second?
Yeah.
There have been a couple of questions that have come in. One from Kathleen asking, can you change the voice? Did you just cover changing the voice?
No, I didn't actually, but you can change the voice. So let's just go into, so I'm back in where I was. I'll just go through that again. So General, Accessibility, Speech, and then just underneath Type and Feedback, which I'm going to come to shortly, you can see there are voices. So depending on which voices, well, you're kind of limited really, because you're kind of stuck with the voices that are there. I quite like Siri Mail. I think it's quite a nice listenable voice.
I quite like one of the Irish voices.
Yeah, the Irish voices are nice too. Some of the Australian ones are quite. So yeah, you could have a play. You're not going to get charged for any of those things, but you currently can't get Scottish voices onto the iPad. It is the kind you're kind of stuck with the ones. Daniel's been around for a long time. It's very sort of BBC, well-spoken type of. I find that quite difficult to listen to, but certainly the Siri voices are quite nice.
One other question while we're here. This is from Pepe. Is it only for iPad? I think she's talking about the reading mode on the iPad.
I think you could do that on your iPhone as well. In fact, I'm fairly sure.
You can do it on computers. It's different browsers that will have their own facility. I certainly know that the Firefox browser has got the option to choose speech to text. So it's quite useful for that.
Yeah.
I think Edge does that as well.
Edge, Microsoft Edge for Windows 10 does it, and if you have a Mac and you obviously using Safari, it supports Safari on a Mac as well. Yeah. Not all sites are what's called reader enabled, but a lot of sites are. But yeah, it's one to look at. It's quite a useful tool.
Just look for an icon that looks like a page or a series of lines just beside the web address at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
And just try clicking on it. You're not going to do any damage, but it's worth just giving it a try and just see what happens.
I think on Edge it's a book icon in the URL bar.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I just pop back into Safari again. And the other thing that might be of use, if I tap the word smuggling, and I'm not sure what the meaning of that word, I could quickly do a lookup, and then let's just find out. And again, this sort of thing where you could maybe use speak screen to read out that word.
Dictionary, smuggle, verb, they smuggled drugs into Britain, bring, take illegally, run, sneak.
Okay, so essentially what you do is extending the use, and you've really got a talking dictionary as well. So if you can see the word and you get the sort of meaning of the word, but you still can't read it, that might be a useful feature to use. Okay, so that's kind of reading. Let's quickly go back into, I'm just going to come out of accessibility. The other nice option that's part of the iOS now is this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4 down, called display options. So let's tap on display options. And of course you can do things like invert colors, those sorts of things. But the one just down from that, and it doesn't mirror when I'm demonstrating it. I can see it on my iPad, but it doesn't mirror over, so you won't see it. But if you've got an iPad or an iPhone, you can try this. If I tap onto color filters and activate color filters, so what's happened now is my screen's gone a sort of pinky color. But what you can do is you can just change the color of the tint. So as I'm moving the hue bar, it's going from blue to a kind of a yellow color to a pink. And if I go the other way, it's going from blue to a pink color. And then I can also, on the top bar, the intensity, you can change it. So the color tint allows you to sort of choose your own colors, whereas these ones are more for sort of customized type colors that you can use. So, and the good thing about that, it's not applicable to one app. It goes right across the iPad. So, you know, wherever you are on the iPad, on Safari, Notes, you'll get that kind of hue colored overlay, which might be quite useful. I better tap that off so it's not. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go back into General again, come out of there, into Accessibility. And I'm going to look at speech again, and this time it's typing feedback. So we've looked at reading and how we've got sort of reading support, but if I want some sort of writing support, well, I think that's there in the shape of text-to-speech. So let's just tap on typing feedback. So the iPad will read individual characters, it will speak words, and it will also speak autotext. So those are the sort of, you know, if you misspell the word the, it autocorrects it for you and it reads it to you. So let's just tap on for just now, speak words. And I'm going to go into Notes. And I'm going to do a bit of typing here at the bottom. Let's just, okay, so I'll type in T. Okay, maybe just turn it up a bit so you can hear it. Also, we can use a prediction. You can see we've got the word prediction, so I can tap and hold to hear the word.
Rivers, river, rivers.
So that's another good accessibility feature. And just when you've chosen the one that you want, you just let go. And let's just do Tay.
Tayside, Tay.
Okay. Is in and Scotland.
Scotch.
What's your favourite drink, Alan?
Scotland.
And Scotland.
And
we'll press the full stop.
I prefer water myself.
Okay, so again, a really nice, useful tool. A good tool for writing as well, with the word prediction. And remember as well, the on-screen keyboard comes with, it's really, you know, it's a fully fledged word processor. So you've got all sorts of things where you can create headings and all sorts of other things. Now, it's possible that that default keyboard that we're using just isn't suitable for pupils. It may be that they may be using a Bluetooth keyboard, an external keyboard, which is fine. But if they're using the on-screen keyboard, now if I just tap onto my globe icon down at the bottom, tap and hold that, I've actually got installed some other keyboards which might be more user-friendly. So for example, Keydojo Plus. Let's tap on Keydojo Plus. And you see how that keyboard changes quite significantly. So now we've got the dyslexia font, the open dyslexia font. We've got word prediction, and it's much nicely coloured. I think it's much more accessible, some of those icons. Let's maybe choose something else, for example. Super keys, this is part of the crick. So what we can do there is we can see how letters are grouped together. If we tap on one, it zooms it out. We've also got word prediction. So again, it just makes it easier to split up the words, the letters, into individual characters that we can see. And finally, so I've got quite a few there. Well, there's a nice numeracy one for doing numbers. It's quite good. And this is which one's this? I forget which this one is. Sorry, folks. So let's go back into settings. Oops, that's the Gboard. Yeah, that's the Gboard one. And I need to come hold that. Next keyboard. And we're back. This is a high for maybe pupils with visual impairment sort of difficulties. It's quite good. And let me see. Need to come out of that one, and we're back again. And so you can just keep toggling through the various keyboards. Now, you might be thinking, well, how do I get them? How on earth do I get those ones? Well, if I go up to my folders, I have a folder at the top here, just wiggling it about, called keyboards. So these are third-party keyboards. That some of them are free, some of them are cost. They're not that expensive. They start from maybe free to 99 pence to maybe up to £4 or £5. And the ones that we quite like at CALL, we've used them with pupils and been quite popular, is Keydojo Plus, Super Keys, the maths keyboard as well, which I showed you. Have you got any favourites, Alan, that you quite like? Gboard's quite good as well, isn't it?
Gboard is quite good. There is something, but I can't remember what it's called. No, I won't say anything about those. Yeah, Keydojo Plus is one I would quite like.
I think Shannon's asked, is there an A to Z keyboard? Off the top of my head, I don't know if there is an A to Z. Like an ABC type keyboard, is that possibly what you mean? Yeah, I'm not so sure. I have to check that one out.
I don't remember seeing one.
Yeah. I'm sure there probably is, actually. It'd be quite good if you could rearrange the letters on the keyboard as well. That would be quite useful. Okay, so that's, again, I'll just quickly show you how you, because once you've installed them onto your iPad, they don't actually appear. What you have to do first is go into General, and then from General, you have to go to Keyboard, and then you see we've got Keyboards, and that's where you can actually, just down at the bottom, add new keyboard, and it'll automatically recognise that you've got that keyboard on your iPad, and it's just a case of tapping the keyboard that you want to become active, and then you can toggle between them. So I've just got a couple of things now, then we'll pass over to Alan. I'll see if there's any questions. And so what I'd like to do now is just show you some tips and tricks for using Siri, for example. So if we go to Notes, let's take away that sentence. So down on the keyboard here, we've got the microphone icon. So again, we can use Siri to dictate for writing support. Let's just tap that. The River Tay is in Scotland. It runs from Dundee, Dundee, Dundee. The Silvery Tay runs past Dundee once a day, or something like that. Yes, sorry. And so it's very accurate, but normally when we don't have so much tech going and you're in a quiet room, it's actually very accurate. And of course, once you've got that one, if you wanted to edit, you can just tap on the keyboard to edit the text, or you could just go in and maybe use Speak Screen to listen to the text, or Speak Selection just to hear how accurate it is. So I think that's maybe quite a useful one. And finally, what I'd like to do is just show you a quick tip on another kind of new feature to the iPad if you're wanting to do a bit of reading and a bit of research together. is if I bring up my Safari browser, and I might be doing something on, let me see, River Tay. Okay, I've got that there. And I'm going to bring up my notes. And I'm doing some work on river profiles or whatever, or the River Tay. So what I can do is if I just flick my finger up from the bottom, that brings up the dock. Okay, flick my finger up from the bottom, it brings up the dock. And what I can then do is I can tap on Safari, and I'm just tapping and holding that Safari icon. I'm moving it to the right of the screen, and it just docks in there. And what we can then do is that we split the screen. And of course, the text on the right-hand side is too small. I mean, you could pinch in and zoom it. But what we could do is just use that Readle enabled. So I'm just going to tap on the horizontal lines on the Wikipedia page. Okay, or we could just, that sort of thing where we've got the text. And the great thing is you could use speak selection to read part of the text. We could then go into notes to have it read aloud as we're typing, or you could even do something like this. I wouldn't show your students this, but we could take a bit of text, for example, and we could just tap and hold, and you just see it just sort of pops out, and we could maybe just pop it into our document as well, and then have that read back aloud. So
great for plagiarism.
Yeah, it's otherwise known as plagiarism. So I think we've covered quite a lot there. So I think what we'll do is I'm just going to move my iPad to the side, and I'll just come out of that for just now. So I'll just say disconnect my device, and we'll come in and stop sharing. Okay, 66685. Alan's just getting his iPad ready. And please show splitting the screen again. Yes, Alan, since you're on, could you?
No, I'll pass mine on across.
Right, okay, right. Okay, no problem. I'll just you say stop mirroring.
Or you can just do it on mine.
Okay. Yes, could I? Okay. Yep. Right. So I'm going to use Alan's iPad I've got here. So I just need to get notes. Find out where
it'll
notes
be the home key or home screen.
Home screen. Okay. Right.
Just tap on the.
Yeah, okay, I wasn't sure. I've got lots of apps. Okay, so there we go. So we've got that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick up from the bottom, okay, to get the dock. We want that up there. So flick up from the dock. It's always a bit different when you're using another iPad. There we go. Okay, and there's my Safari icon. Now it doesn't have to be Safari and Notes. It could be a whole range of notes. It could be, a whole range of different apps that you're working with. 2 or 3 apps together, writing and reading as you want. It could be iBooks and Notes, however you want it. Just tapping and holding, drag it. I could maybe go to that side, dock it in, or we can go to that side. Okay, use slightly different system from mine. It's just yeah, and we just lock it in. There we go, and then move it along there. And I think, if I remember, there's this little thing at the top that you can use if it doesn't always dock in. That you can use that just to dock it into the. That's it, just so it docks in. I did it last time. Yeah, there it is. Just docks. And then when you're finished with it, you don't want to use it anymore. You just move it to the side so it's no longer there. Okay.
Right. What I'm going to be doing is looking at a series of apps, starting off with some apps which are really quite good for very young learners, not necessarily with dyslexia, but just trying to familiarise themselves with text.
Yeah, we're sharing the screen.
I've forgotten to.
Okay.
Yes, right. We're
okay. Can you see that actually? It's not shared, is it? Yeah. So we'll get Alan to share his screen. Sorry, I didn't. Right, I'll do that again. Sorry, it's my fault. Let's share. I'll share my screen. There we go. On Alan's one. Sorry, I didn't realise that we weren't sharing the screen there. Okay, but we are now.
That's better.
Okay, we'll come back and do that at the end. Is that okay?
Yep.
So we'll do that at the end. Sorry about that, folks. You're just watching a blank screen there. Never mind.
No, never mind. These things happen. As I was saying, I'm going to be looking at a series of apps, some of which I've got in this little folder at the back called Dyslexia Webinar, and the others I haven't actually put in here yet. But I'm going to start off with an app called School Writing, which is one of several apps available to help with encouraging people to trace the shapes of letters and numbers and various shapes, which is really quite a useful sort of skill to have. It's encouraging people to tapped on the wrong one there. Right, that's individual letters. Let's go back a stage. Lowercase letters, that's one I was trying to do earlier on. Let's just reset that one. It shows you how to create the letters. How this works is, as I move around, we get a sort of sound coming out. I'll go back at the top, then it starts coming down. And oh, I get a gold star for that. That was neat enough. Sometimes I've had some very strange noises coming from these with things which, when my effort hasn't been quite good enough. Let's try a B now. Go down, then around. How did I do that time? Oh, another gold star. Yeah, I'm on a roll now. But you get the idea. You can sort of create words from lists, like lesson 4 here. Words starting with A to Z. Tap on that. Write a word starting with each letter of the alphabet. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Sarah's asking if you could use a pen, an
Yep.
iPad pen.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could certainly use the pen or any sort of stylus. For many people, it's actually easier. This sort of thing is easier with the stylus because I know my finger's quite big and I can't actually see what I'm doing here. So just tracing that. So that's an A. Let's see what else. What letter am I going to put after that? Let's try a B. And so on. Right. I'm going to be going through these things very, very quickly, so I don't want to get stuck on
so that's school
too
writing.
many places. It's called school writing.
Does it cost anything?
It costs $4.99.
$4.99.
There's another one called Writing Wizard, I think, which I'll be showing on the Android device later on, which I think it's got a free version. This one gives you a chance to try things out. Okay, school writing. Moving on a stage, and that's really very, very basic level of letter formation. Next one is one called Word Wizard. This is one I really quite like. I've started looking at it quite recently.
Welcome to Word Wizard.
And it's designed to focus attention on words. You can create your own words. It's sort of like an on-screen version of Scrabble. That's the starting point.
Please drag some letters to the board.
And what I could do in typical Scrabble fashion, I could drag 7 letters on here.
D, E, D, Dim, G, G.
Let's have an N.
Mm,
Let's count down. Let's have an I.
E,
I think I know what I'm going to put in here. I'll just stick this
E,
up here.
E.
And let's have another M.
Me.
And I'm going to get a 7-letter word out of this.
D,
D-I-M-M.
Dim, dim, dimming.
And when you've got a full word, it completes the word for you. This is actually the hardest of the activities because it's a much more free-flowing activity than some of the other ones. It's really quite good if sort of 2 pupils were sitting together. One could just put a random selection of letters on the screen, and then the other person could try to make a word out of them. It starts off with word practice. This is the simplest one. You can choose whichever list of words you want to be focusing on. Let's go for a straightforward one. Let's look at colors. So tap on colors, colors 1, and now
Spell white.
Spell white. Okay, I just drag a W up here. That's the H sound, so I'll just bring that up. That should be an I.
We.
That's a T sound.
Wit.
So is that right? No, still not quite right. I'll bring it up.
White.
And everything catches fire and it's got smoke all over the place. That's a reward.
Isn't that fairy dust? Pixel dust?
Fairy dust, yes, pixel dust, yes,
Black.
exactly. Okay, enough of this one. Let's go back. Scrambled letters. Scrambled letters, not scrambled eggs. Again, we could use the same list.
Spell Purple.
And this time you don't have the complete word to look at, but you just have to try to remember it yourself. Oh, what's the next? P-U? Is that right?
Huh?
Purple? No, it's not purple. It'll be purple. Perp.
Perp.
Is it purple?
Purple. Le?
Purple?
Perp. Purple.
No, that's obviously not right.
Perp.
That's right.
Purple. Spell. Amber.
And we've got spelling quizzes at the end, but because we're running out of short of time, I won't go into a whole collection of them. But I think this is a really nice app, encouraging people to focus on individual words, hearing the words, getting to form them with their fingers, being able to see them, so you're covering 3 senses in one go. That's really quite a powerful method to actually sort of learn a bit more about words and how it sounds, and it can be used with as a phonics-based thing as well. Right, now that's a couple of nice early ones. I was going to look at the Kidogo Plus keyboard, but Craig's showed that one nicely, so that saves me a bit of time. Next, I'm going to jump ahead and look at correcting spelling. And I've just happened to have a Pages document here, which has got lots and lots of spelling mistakes in here. And I'm going to use an app called Ginger Pages for this. So I've done the original writing of this document in Page. Yes. And with Page, if I tap on a word it'll underline words it doesn't recognize. If I tap on one of these, for example, wonder, it comes up in the top row with various suggestions, none of which is quite right. Let's try going into the spelling. Yep, comes up with spelling is second word along in the list. Mistakes, let's see where that one's going to be. Just doing a tap and hold on each word here. Mistakes, and it comes up with mistakes as the second word along from the side. So it's finding the correct words, but it's being a bit of a roundabout way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all this text and put it into the Pages app, which I need. I've forgotten where my Pages app is, so a little tip.
The Ginger one, is it?
It's Ginger Pages.
Your Ginger Pages,
yep.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put my finger near the top of the screen and pull down. And as I pull down, the list of apps that I've used recently will suddenly appear, and it's Ginger Page. If it's typed Ginger where it says search, I've just typed the first GI, then I would have got the GI and the Ginger coming up. Let's just do that just to let you see. GI, and our Ginger is first one in the list. So just tap on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste that text with several spelling mistakes in it into Ginger. Tap and paste. And it's immediately highlighting the incorrectly spelt words, or the words it doesn't recognize, and we'll quickly go through them. Wonder is the first one, that's correct. Spelling, that's correct. Mistakes, that's correct. Each time, as I correct the words, then the options sort of disappear from the list. Be picked up, yes, that's correct. Maybe as it is easy, that's correct. For me to correct them, that's correct. The girl, and this is the time when it was the first time it makes a mistake. I was trying to do a couple of letter reversals in this sentence, and it's failed on the first one. I tried this a couple of times, and one time it came up with boy, and the other time it came up with dog, and this time it's coming up with day. So it doesn't really learn from its mistakes, unfortunately. So that one is not day, so I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to type in B-O-Y. Oops, I had the cursor in the wrong place. And let's just type in B-O-Y, And the next one is another letter reversal. That's meant to be down, and it's correctly guessed at down rather than bound. So tap on that. And road, it's got the right road for this one. So I thought that was pretty good, actually. There was about 10 mistakes there, and it got 9 of them correctly.
I think these cloud-based apps are quite good, aren't they? Where they said looking at different algorithms to get that they're much better. You would never have maybe got that in Pages, for example, would you?
No. And Pages recognised things were wrong, but it wasn't very good at correcting them. Whereas Ginger Page, it's done the job pretty well. And I think it's just checking the price of it. It's $3.99, which it's not a bad deal. Okay, that's looking at the Pages app and used in conjunction with Ginger Page. Next, we're going to that's focusing on writing so far. We're now going to start focusing a bit more on reading, and we're going to start off looking at iBooks. And so, where is iBooks? Pull down. iBooks. Oh, of course, I forgot they changed their name from iBooks to Books quite recently. So type on Books. This is a book about, it's called I Can with iOS. And it's got pictures of the author. It's a mixture of quite a bit of text, quite a bit of pictures, quite a few pictures. If you're wanting to read some of the text out, then you could easily do the 2-finger swipe down from the top of the screen.
Page I.
And we get the, it's going right up to the top of the bill, the start of the document. Never mind. The alternative would be speak selection.
About the author.
And we get a fair variety. It's just the sorts of things that Craig was demonstrating earlier on. But there are other ways of doing this sort of thing. And the method I was going to use is one called Voicedream Reader. I think. If I tap on here, I should be able to open it in another app. I was just trying this earlier on and it worked. But now it's not working. Let's try it again. Right, going to give up on that one. I'm going to move straight to Voicedream Reader rather than messing around with that document. I say it worked perfectly when I was setting things up earlier on, but I think I've probably forgotten a crucial step in the process. So let's just open up Voicedream. Here we go. And with this, I can open up a book. And what I can do is I can switch between the original layout of the book, which is something like this. This was a 24-point version of the book, and it's been designed to go on a sort of a white background like that. It's got a blue chapter heading. There are lots and lots of things I can do in Voicedream Reader. For example, if somebody doesn't like the white background, what we can do is we can change the color background. Color settings for back. Right, change across to plain text. That's gone to plain text. Change the font. Let's use the dyslexia. Let's try chalkboard. Let's change instantly to chalkboard. There's lots and lots of different fonts available Quite a few of the programs available that you can use to make text easier to read will have a choice of maybe half a dozen fonts, and sometimes it's not a very good choice. For example, the reading view in Safari has only got, I think, a choice of 6 fonts, and 4 of them look, well, I think it's 8 fonts and 6 of them all look almost exactly the same, which isn't really much of a choice. This one has got lots of fonts and many of them looking very different. So that is changing to Open Sans. I should make it regular text instead of bold text. I can change background colors. I think plain text, font and spacing, colors, color settings. Let's have a yellow background. That'll do nicely.
I think that's the great thing about Voicedream. You could have really so many different options, varieties of background colours, foreground colours, text sizes, fonts. It's very versatile, isn't it?
And it certainly is, except that text should have been changing to green. Let's try that again. Background colour. It should be yellow.
Then hit set. Is it? You just need to hit set.
Oh, right.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it, yeah. There's always something that don't quite get right on these things. Yeah, so Voicedream readers, lots and lots of flexibility. It will also read the text out. And there are various voices available. You can download additional voices if you want, including, yeah, there's quite a variety of voices here. I think this is an American one. Ooh, right, that'll do back here. And you can change the speed at which it reads. People with dyslexia tend to work better when their text is being read fairly slowly. Right, and now tap on the red button at the bottom, and that should start reading.
Danny, the champion of the world, Roald Dahl, ISBN 0140371575,
That's reading right from
Puffin 1994. Important.
the
This
start
is
of
an
the document.
accessible copy of a printed book. All rights to this accessible copy are retained by the rights holders of the original printed book. This accessible copy is made under the terms of the copy.
I should have moved to the right part of the text before I started it speaking, but never mind. You get the idea.
Can you still do that flick thing, Alan? Where you do a flick in the middle, so it's like, yeah, that's really cool. That's quite nice.
This lets you focus on the reading.
I think my most favourite feature of that app is when you go to Home, and then you can just download books in from the Gutenberg library and a whole range of things, and get them quickly and easily into your app. So,
It's a very nice app. It's quite expensive though. It's about $14.99, I think, with paying extra for fancier voices. But it does a lot of stuff. Very, very powerful app, and for some people who need a lot of support with reading, then it's a very useful app to try. Now let's go a wee bit more commercial. Going to go next to Kindle app. Let's get strange things going on in my device at the moment. Right, Kindle. Oops. Now, what books do we have here? Oh, I've been reading The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared. I don't really want to use that one. So, oops, press on the wrong bit there. Right, I just want to go back to the library. Let's close the book. I'm going to use Daniel, Champion of the World again. And here we have Is this? Yeah, it is still happening. Right. My screen just went blank because it's a screensaver that came in. Again, you can just use the 2-finger swipe down from the top.
There was only one room in the caravan, and it wasn't much bigger than a fair-sized modern bathroom. It was a...
That's using one of my favourite Irish voices. And it turned out that wasn't bad. But Kindle can be used in connection with... Let's just stop this. Kindle can be used in connection with the Audible app. And the Audible app has got audiobooks recorded by a human voice. And so Kindle and Audible books, because they're both companies owned by Amazon, they've been linked together. So if you can get, there are millions of Kindle books available and maybe a couple 100,000 Audible books. I'm not sure the latest figures. But if you can get the Audible version of a book and add it to the Kindle, then this is what you can get.
Was my father's, the bottom one, mine. Although we had electric lights in the workshop, we were not allowed to have them in the caravan. The electricity people said it was unsafe to put wires into something as old and rickety as that.
Right, just do the pause. Stop on that. What was happening there is it's been read with the human voice, which has got far more character than even the best of the synthetic voices. And then you're also getting each word highlighted as it's being read. And again, that's a really pretty powerful technique. And I think this is just such a good way for somebody with dyslexia to be reading books. We're starting to run a wee bit short of time here, so I'm going to, let's see, was there anything I was really desperate to show? Yeah, something different. Oh, 2 things. I was planning to show Claro's ScanPen. Have I got some text I could scan? And the other one was, Craig is just thrusting a book in front of me. Claro ScanPen. And this is such a dead good app. It's probably my favourite of all time. Basically, you take a picture of the screen full of text, tap on the picture button, takes a couple of seconds, and now as I just swipe down.
Released in September 2017. Inverted exclamation mark OS 11 inverted exclamation mark S, the latest version of Apple's operating system for the inverted exclamation mark pad inverted exclamation mark S.
It has problems with the word iPad.
Introduces new features
and to be honest with you, it was a bit squint.
Yes, it was a bit rushed. It was a bit rushed.
But it works
but
great.
It works. It's a really, really good app in normal circumstances. So we don't really have time to go with full one. The other one I want to show is one called Otter, which Sharon from Dyslexia Scotland reminded us of. Was it last week?
Yeah,
it's very, very recently. And I just had a wee quick look at it and thought, yeah, this app has got definite potential. Here we go with Otter. It's designed primarily. Oh dear, I hate when they suddenly change the front screens of these apps. Right. No, what's going on? Excuse me while I just fiddle about with this.
So briefly, Otter is an app that allows you to record conversations and then it transcripts those conversations into text. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And they've changed the appearance.
The name of the app is Otter.
Otter.
Yeah, Otter.
Bear with me just a second while I try and get the thing to do what I'm trying to get it to do. That's one of the problems I find with apps is if you don't look at them, if in between appearances
So it's actually just recording.
It's just, yeah, what it's doing is it's now recording what I'm saying. I think. Is it? Or is it stopped? Oh, it's stopped. Let's try it again.
So it's worth pointing out that this is a subscription service, isn't it?
Yeah. Nope. It starts off as being free.
Right.
Just need to work out how to create a new note. Oh, apologies. I haven't got time to. That's previous recording. What's really good about this one is you can actually, if somebody is going to be offline, not connected to Wi-Fi, if somebody's connected to Wi-Fi and they wanted to use speech recognition, then Siri works really, really well. But if you're not, then if you speak into Otter and just dictate your thoughts, and you're maybe in a bus or in a car or something like that, and you're getting your thoughts together, and you just dictate your thoughts into your iPad, and next time you're connected to Wi-Fi, it'll fire off this text, little recording of what you've spoken into the cloud, and then it'll come back down, and it'll have done the speech recognition, which is really quite useful if you're not going to be online.
Okay to move on then, Alan?
I think so. That's enough of the iPad side of things. I'm going to move across to Android.
So just before we do that, just
any questions?
So here's an opportunity for you just to sort of have a quick just a reflection on some of the things that we've looked at. You can maybe mention, for example, about some of the built-in features, which ones you thought would be most useful or least useful, or some of the apps that Alan's demonstrated, which ones you might thought would be quite good as well. I think there's just so we'll just take a couple of minutes, because you've still got 20 minutes to look at the Android sort of side of things.
There are also a couple of questions lurking in the background. I saw things, but I didn't actually see what the questions were. I just thought somebody had been typing.
Let's just bring out those chat files, and here we go. Just put that down there.
Right, Vicky, the app that's using the camera was Claro ScanPen. It used to be called Claro ScanPen Reader, but they've dropped the reader bit at the end. It's called Claro ScanPen. Cost $9.99. There's another app that's in the handout, as I mentioned, called Office Lens, which is also a really good one for that sort of thing. It lets you take a photograph of text and share the text into, say, a Word document or various other sort of aspects of Office, and then does the conversion into readable text. Because when you take a picture, you're just taking a picture of anything that just happens to have text. It needs to have what's known as optical character recognition to convert the picture of text into real text that you can manipulate. Claro ScanPen does it really, really quickly. There's another one called AI something or other, which I had on my iPad, and it actually does it in real time. You just hold the camera up against some text, and it just starts speaking the text as you're holding it. So that's really, really good.
Les is asking where can we watch it later, and we'll send the link out to everyone so you can see.
If anybody was watching last week's webinar and you haven't received the link yet, it's because there were one or two things went slightly wrong, and we just want to tidy them up before we do it. So we'll be doing that. We're both quite busy tomorrow, but probably Thursday or Friday.
Okay, Alan, you've got your Android ready at the go?
Where's my Android? Yes.
Yes, fire up your Android. Okay.
Right, okay, the screen is about to get shared. This is the Android. Oh, I don't really want to be in this bit. Right, let's just want to go back a couple of stages. Talking about some of the accessibility features in the Android. So
Just maximise it, Alan. So
Oh,
just
right.
so
Yeah.
you've got it full screen. That's better.
Okay.
Great. That's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, Craig is sort of pointing at things, and we're trying to work out what it was being said. Yes. Now, in the Android settings, this is in the accessibility settings. There are one or two things which are really quite useful, and one of these is two of these actually. One is called Select to Speak. So I'm going to tap in here, and when Select to Speak is on, you can see this little icon over on the right, and you get this sort of, yes, I can sort of move it around. And when I turn it on, for example, if I click on there, and if I select some text.
When Select to Speak is on, you can tap specific items on your screen to hear them aloud. First, tap the icon.
Notice, that was a Scottish voice. For these aficionados about voices, that was a Stuart voice. You can't get that on your iPad, can you? So this is one of the nice things about the Android devices. You can actually get one or two more things happening. Let's just turn that off because it's interfering with moving back up. So that was in Select to Speak, which is in the accessibility settings on the Android. You would normally go to settings, then accessibility settings, then you go to Select to Speak and turn it on. There are various other features in here. I'm not going to show them in any great detail. TalkBack is a screen reader. It's really designed more for people with visual impairment, and it'll read back everything that's on the screen. Switch access is for people with much more severe difficulties, who have difficulty reading using a keyboard or a mouse. But I can scroll down. You can change default font sizes in here. The one I'm wanting to come down to is the text-to-speech output. And in here, it's has a built-in system called Pico TTS. The built-in system will vary hugely depending on the device that you're using. And I'm not going to tell you what device I'm using at the moment. That's a subject for speculation. But I've also got a couple of other speech apps. One is the Heather app and the other is the Stuart app. And I just got them from the Google Play Store. And just while I'm here, I'll just quickly change to the Google Play Store. And the best way to find these voices is to just do a search for Cerebroc, because they're the company who produced the voices. And they have a wide variety of voices available. They're all very, very high quality voices. You'll be struggling to find better voices anywhere. Cheap. And yes, just look at the prices. 59 pence. If you're in the situation of having to buy one of these voices for a Windows PC, it'd be something like £25 or £30. I can't remember the exact price. It's somewhere between £25 and £30. But for the Android devices, they're a mere 59 pence, and there's a lot of the voices are available. I'm just going to scroll down. There's Heather, Caitlin, Sarah, Kirsty, Isabella, and it's all sorts of UK regional accents and American accents, European accent voices, lower down, some fun voices as well. The Dodo voice is a great Glaswegian voice. It goes down very well in schools in Glasgow. Right, anyway, that's looked at some of the things. Oh, right, next thing on my wee list is to look at a colour screen filter. This is something which the Android devices had before Apple, and there was a wee app. There's quite a few apps actually that could do it. But the one I'm thinking of is colour screen filters. And we can choose various colours, and we can amend them slightly. This is a sort of a blue. Let's just make it a wee bit more blue by just taking out some of the other colors, and you'll be able to see how what I'm doing is affecting it in this box up here, although not very much. Right, that's changing the overall depth of the color. And when I turn it on, then I now get this blue shade over the whole screen. You might see it a little bit more easily if I move across back to the Play Store for just now, because that's a blue background, or a sort of a white background, and we've now got the dark blue, the blue appearing. Very useful for some people with a visual stress. And I can, again, it's called Color Screen Filter, and let's just really put it up quite high just to see it a bit more clearly. And back in the Play Store, it's not really coming up as quite as dark as I thought it was. It would actually.
At least it works.
Yes, but it does work, and you can actually see some of the stuff. The iPad one does work, but it's just you can't see it when we're mirroring.
Kathy just asked about there aren't colour filters built into the iOS, are there, that we know?
Yeah.
There
yeah.
are they? All right, so I'm sorry, I'm wrong.
Sorry?
Are there colour filters built into the operating system?
Not in the Android.
Not in the Android, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, kind of see it. That's what Kathy was asking.
Yep. Okay, now getting back. Right. When I was doing stuff with the iPad, I started off with a couple of apps for children, and I've got a couple more. These are available for both Android and iPad devices, but I'm just going to use the Android to demonstrate this one. This is one called Words Lite, and if I just click on this, what you can do is create words, or you're meant to spell the word peach. No, what is it? I wasn't listening properly. So what is this fruit here?
Peach.
Click on it again. Oh yes, it's a peach, right. So, how does that start? Was that a D or a P at the start?
D.
Let's try. Oh, no, it doesn't really sound very right. That's a bit too harsh.
Peach.
Well, let's try, might be the P. Let's try an E.
E.
Enough of the messing around. Let's just finish it quite off quickly. Notice the consonants are red, vowels are blue. And how's it reading that sounding at the moment?
E.
Okay, it's sticking the E and the A together to create one sound. Let's just add a C. And let's have an H. And the leaves start blowing across the background of the screen. So it's quite a nice sort of thing going on. And let's come out, exit to the menu. Various things you can do. Simple words with 3 sounds, words with consonant blend, words of any complexity. This is a free version, so it's not got. It's only got 320 words inside it, whereas the full version has got 634, if my arithmetic is working properly. So this one's free. The full version I think is about $2.99 or so. That was Montessori Words Lite. Next one on my list. This is another one for writing text. This is the one I mentioned before called Writing Wizard. Very, very quickly let you see the difference between this and the other one. Click on here. It's not got the full access to the full alphabet. It's only got A to H. Again, this is the free version.
G.
Okay, and now I have to follow this. I'm actually using a mouse for this, so this is really quite a bit more difficult than using the finger on the screen or a stylus on the screen. Stylus would be quite good for this. But I managed to get by with the mouse. And it's wanted to get right. Let's go back to the previous level. running short of time. So I think you get the idea of that one. That's a couple of apps for getting people started with reading and writing. Again, I'm going to sort of jump from the fairly straightforward stuff, and I'm now going to go into an app that's really nice for reading books. This is one of my favorite apps for reading on an Android device. It's called Moon Reader Plus, and it's one of the early apps for reading books. It'll read EPUBs. It can read PDF files as well, and it can read lots and lots of text that you can get from various websites. When it opens up, you can open it up in 2 columns in landscape format, or you could have it portrait with all the text coming down. I'm just going to move this little control bar at the bottom way across here so it's out of the way, because I'm going to now go tap in here, and there are various buttons along the bottom. For example, if I wanted to read it have the text read out, I just click on this speaking button, and it's just saying, right, okay, well, do you want me to stop reading after 10 minutes? So what I could do is, if I was in bed at night and I wanted to sort of hear a textbook being read for about 10 minutes or so, I could just say, yeah, stop after 10 minutes. Or I could change it maybe 20 minutes or whatever. I don't know if other people use audiobooks in bed at night. I sometimes have listened to a podcast and I hardly ever manage to get to the end of it. I always find I fall asleep before the end. Right,
down the rabbit hole. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. Once or twice she had...
With this, you can get the various little swipes and things that you can use to control the text-to-speech. But I just find these things to be slightly annoying at the start, so I'm just going to turn them off, so you don't actually see this stuff again. Again, stuff is being read with the Stuart voice, and so yes, it reads the stuff. It's changed from being in 2 columns to just 1 column, but as soon as I turn off the text-to-speech, it goes back to the way it was before. The other really nice feature about this is, let's see, is it this one? It might be this one. Yeah, it's this one. Visual options. Huge range of options in here. At the moment, the font size is really quite small, so I'm going to make it quite a bit bigger. I just start scrolling it up. Okay, that's now 21 point. Let's just go up to 24. That's much bigger. Now, font name. I don't like this font at the back. It's just so peeking out behind here. Let's just change it to something else. That's the current font. There's one quite nice one called Coming Soon. It's a wee bit more fun. So let's just change the font now to Coming Soon. Background color. I could make it a yellowy color, but let's just make it a paler yellow. Let's do something like that. That'll do. It was maybe a bit too bright. Never mind, I can play around with that a bit more. And yes, I can make the text bold, so that makes it stand out a wee bit more. I can increase the spacing as well. Now, where's that gone? Oh, it's maybe gone off the bottom here. There were other control options that slightly disappeared off the bottom of the screen, and I'm struggling to get them back. Never mind. Joys of technology. Nope, it's not going to work. I should maybe explain at this point that we're trying to use a proper Android device earlier on and it wasn't connecting. So I'm using a thing called BlueStacks, which is an Android emulator running in a PC. And for most purposes, it's absolutely wonderful, but just occasionally it lets things slip. But what I would have liked to do there was to increase the space between lines of text, and it could also increase the space between words, and both of which are things which can be aimed to help people with dyslexia read things out a wee bit more clearly. What else do I want to show? I will cheat again. At this point, I will show the Android device, whereas the iPad is using has got Siri as an option. The Android has got voice typing as an option, and again, it's pretty impressive. There's it's used within Google Docs, but in the Android, there's a Docs app that you can use and to dictate into it. And normally, you would be typing or dictating using the keyboard app called G something or other. Gboard. Yes, yes. I kept wanting to call it Gbar, but it's normally Gboard. But I've cheated slightly, but this will have exactly the same impact as seeing it in the other one. When I was practicing earlier, I said today is Thursday, but I'm going to try to remember today is Tuesday. Yeah, right. Today is Tuesday, and I'm demonstrating how well speech recognition can work in a Google document, full stop. That was pretty good. Good, wasn't it? Yeah.
Is it worth saying as well? And it's just a built-in mic that you're using on your
laptop.
Yeah,
I don't have a fancy external microphone at all. I started getting a bit careless now speaking when I got this thing at the crispy at the end. So I'll just delete that. But that's quite good. That's free, built into Android devices, and it works just as well on the Android on my Android tablet as it does using this laptop, which is pretending to be an Android. I think we should probably draw to a close at this point. There are a couple of other things which are in the handout. If you download the handout, it's one or two other things which I would have been trying to show. Now, how can we get back to the questions?
Just back to the overview. Okay, so thank you for here's just let's make this larger. If there are any questions before we finish, please pop them into the
nice chinos. Yes, we watch with the other ladies. Right?
It was Moon Reader Plus. Moon Reader Plus.
Yep.
That's one.
And that's one which I really think is very good. Where's the color field? There's color screen filter in Android. I don't think there's a built-in one. Again, my Android device only goes up to iOS 7, and I bought it 2 years ago, but it's been stuck at version 7, which is slightly annoying. It's one of the reasons one of the things I don't like about Android devices. You can get locked into the bad things. They have been adding extra accessibility features in the last couple of years, or since then, and they're now on version 9 of the software, and so it might well be. Oh, Kate's question now. Is an iPad better than a Samsung tablet for dyslexia? I would say that the Samsung tablet is probably the best of the Android devices. It's also quite expensive, and it's a really great device, and it would be really, really good. But there's just more apps available for the iPad, and so I would lean towards the iPad. But if I was demonstrating an Android, then I would love to have had a newish Samsung rather than my old Acer, which was highly recommended at the time, but it just had one or two features that didn't work too well. Sharon, you're having to shoot off. Nice to see your typing. We'll see you again soon. Yes, great question, Kate. Yes, Yes, but you've heard my answer. Would you agree with that, Craig?
Yeah, I've always kind of thought, maybe wrongly, that Android devices are great for entertainment, for playing games, watching films, and those sorts of things. But for educational content, you can't beat the built-in features plus the amount of educational apps that are on the App Store.
The other thing that I find about the iPad thing is that the apps almost always work. There's much more sort of quality control on the iPad side of things, whereas Android, individually there are some really nice apps, but there were times when I was sort of struggling a wee bit moving between different apps, and things just weren't quite as smooth as they might have been on the iPad. Having said that, I had a couple of things go slightly wrong on the iPad side of things as well, but right.
Yeah, well, I think we will close up now. You need to an iPad.
Oh, yes.
Well, Kate, there's some fantastic resources. If you do go for an iPad, there's some fantastic resources on the CALL site. We've done lots of other webinars as well, where we focused on something specific, like just the built-in features, or something like clicker sentences or clicker apps, or those types of things. So you might want to visit them first before you decide.
And thanks, Bridget. Nice bit of feedback there.
Okay. Right, I'm going to switch the recording off now and we'll close the session. Okay, so thanks everyone.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for staying.
Thank you.